All right, so it's a pleasure having you stay with us on News 360. It's now time for us to get some updates from our world of business. And here I go straight into projections on crude oil. Now, government is likely to miss its expected revenue projection of $502 million from crude oil sale should prices continue to dip on the world market. Now, analysts expect Finance Minister Seth Terkper to go back to Parliament to revise the $53 per barrel projected figure used as average price in the 2016 budget. Upward pressure on the price of crude on the global market poses significant risk to government revenue projections for 2016's fiscal year. The finance minister projected the average price of crude oil to hover around $53.05 per barrel for 2016, but the prevailing price of $40 per barrel on the world market poses a major risk to government's expected crude oil revenue of $502.10 million for 2016. An economist from Data Bank, Courage Kingsley Marte, said Ghana's Petroleum Revenue Management Act allows the finance minister to return to Parliament for approval of a revised revenue benchmark.
You do not want to close your eyes to what is happening in the external front to the extent that it affects what is happening to your policy, the effectiveness of your policy, the reality on the ground. And so it is very, very necessary because, again, you have investors looking at you to see how realistic your projections are and how you are likely to miss it or, deviate from it.
Government can also resort to the excesses on the Ghana Stabilization Fund if it expects an imminent recovery in crude oil prices towards 2016. Could this be Ghana's best option should the worst happen?
The fact that Iran could be coming on stream next year also possibly, and that also just worsen the outlook for prices because you are going to have the glut continue on the market and prices could depress further. And so given the whole scenario, it calls for two options. One, you may have to fall on the stabilization fund if you expect an imminent recovery, which is quite unlikely. Or the second option is to revise this benchmark revenue price from $53 downwards.
All right, so I don't only have bad news tonight. Let's see some good angle for businesses as Ghanaians should expect a reduction in interest rates on bank loans from the second half of next year. Projections by the managing director and head of Africa macro research at Standard Chartered Bank, Razia Khan, suggest the Bank of Ghana will first start reducing its policy rate from July next year.
Bank of Ghana has consistently increased its monetary policy rate from 18% in May 2014 to 26% as at November 2015. As part of the central bank's debatable inflation targeting policy, it has stressed the need for further tightening in order to bring inflation back within its target band for the regular increases. This has contributed to the very high interest rates in Ghana, with banks' lending rates averaging 30%, while that of microfinance institutions hover around 70%.
We think the Bank of Ghana will need to look at where it expects inflation to be on a 2-year horizon, and therefore that should open up the scope for some easing of monetary policy in the sense that the policy rate should start to come down in the second half of next year. So Standard Chartered does have a bold call, which is we anticipate that the policy rate should peak at its current level of 26%, at that we end 2016 at a lower rate of interest than we have seen so far. The justification for that will be once we see the initial increase in inflation on the back of utility tariffs being raised, if fiscal policy continues to be tight, if other monetary policy conditions are being met, namely the Bank of Ghana financing, then it should be clear that in the medium term inflation is on a decelerating path, and that opens the way towards policy rate easing. That does not mean monetary easing per se, but it does mean the policy rate should start to come down.
All right, so we're rounding business up shortly, but let me just quickly give you some updates of what is happening with the forex market, how the Ghana cedi is traded against other major trading currencies. So a little bit of it's being bought, that's the US dollar at 3 Ghana cedis, 7,951 pesos. Spain sold at 3 Ghana cedis, 798 pesos. So just about that, I would quickly dash on and look at some updates from our commodities markets. Just a little bit of updates with looking at crude oil, also touching on gold and the like. Crude oil here, it's moved up to $40.65 a barrel on the international market. Just a little bit of that of gold, and it's on your screens. Well, currently pegged at $1,073.19 an ounce on the international market. So those are some updates. If you missed any of them, catch ups tomorrow as we bring you some more updates. My name is Kwekutimin. A very good evening. We're back with more.